from the Mexican Consulate, David Lita from the Human Rights Commission. Who are you? No. Chief Mike Brown, he's easy to pick out in the crowd. Pastor Curtis Price from the Interfaith Roundtable, and District Attorney Sim Gill. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Jay Jacobson.
Thank you, Liz. I'd like you to meet two partners who are not on the stage. Asher Ireland is the president of the Hillel organization on the University of Utah campus and works as an intern for our United Jewish Federation and probably plays a major role in communicating with our partners and keeping us on track and on schedule. And sitting above him and to my right is Alex Shapiro, the executive director of the Jewish Federation of Utah, who again, I think with myself and board members, were really founding fathers, I would say, of the Partners Against Hate. So, hi there. I'm Jay Jacobson, as you know, an emeritus professor of medicine at the University of Utah. My field is infectious disease and epidemiology. I've encountered many epidemics in my life. An epidemic, as you know, is an outbreak of a new disease or an unexpected increase in one that's well known. Examples of those would be AIDS and Ebola, or measles and influenza. But in every epidemic, it's reports of cases that enable us to respond, to manage, to prevent cases, and to end the epidemics. In 2015, as Liz said, while I was on the board of the Jewish Federation, I was shocked by the murder of 9 African Americans in their church in Charleston. Then I was stunned by the killing of 49 gay people at a nightclub in Orlando. Next, our Jewish community was devastated, and we remained frightened after the massacre of 11 Jews in their synagogue in Pittsburgh. But when a man shouted, "I'm here to kill a Mexican," and nearly killed a Latino youth in a Salt Lake City tire shop, I belatedly recognized an epidemic of hate crimes. Crimes such as vandalism, intimidation, assault, or even murder that are motivated by hatred of a group to which an individual belongs. When the Utah legislature debated a hate crimes bill in 2019, we organized our community Partners Against Hate. These leaders of historically targeted minorities, committed government officials, and clergy from many, many faiths together advocated and secured the passage of that law, which enhances the sentences of convicted criminals that were motivated by hatred of a person's religion, race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation. We know that hate crimes are woefully underreported, with a record-setting 11,600 hate crimes reported to the FBI in 2022. The Department of Justice estimated that the actual number was as high as 250,000. That means that while in Utah, we reported in 2022 149 hate crimes, 44 in our county, and 20 in Salt Lake City. The actual number adjusted for our population could be 25 times that great. With the law in place, we turned our attention to raising public awareness of what hate crimes are, their rising incidence, the readiness of law enforcement to respond to them, and the critical reasons to report. We've produced and updated thousands of booklets that inform people, invite them to stand up and speak up against hate, and tell them how to report crimes. We just brought many of our partners, many of whom are standing here, to the Global Summit to Eradicate Hate in Pittsburgh. The organizers recognized us there as upstanders and invited us to report on what we've accomplished here in Salt Lake with our unusual collaboration. They applauded a new PSA, which you'll see today, which demonstrates our diversity and determination to stand up to hate, to report hate crimes and incidents, and to support victims and hold perpetrators accountable. They were impressed as we are, by the support that we've received from our city, county, and law enforcement leaders for that PSA, for our booklet, and for the campaign to speak up and stand up against hate crimes, stand up against hate and report hate crimes. Our speakers and many of our partners here will be glad to take your questions once our presentations are completed. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Executive Director of the Utah Muslim Civic League, Luna Banuri.
Good morning to each one of you, and thank you so much for being here. The way to overcome fear in America is to demand that Americans should be and can be the America that dreams the best version of itself. My name is Luna Banuri. I am a Muslim American and a Utahn. Today is Friday, the holy day of the week for Muslims, and we are at the cusp of time for our Friday prayers. I do stand here with the weight of my community's vast range of emotions. And I'm centering the most widely held belief amongst the Muslims, that of standing with the oppressed against evil or injustice. As a hadith from the Prophet Muhammad says, "Whoever amongst you sees evil, let him change it with his hand, and if he cannot do so, then let him change it with his tongue." I also feel the strength of this coalition, with whom I have had the pleasure to work for almost 2 years. And I speak without any hesitation and any fear of censorship from all my allies. Thank you, Dr. J. Jacobson, Usher, Liz, and Alex, for creating this forum for us to be able to share and speak on behalf of our communities. Amen. Given the events of the past week and a half, measures to report and document hate crimes have become all but a necessity. In the wake of these events, American Muslims immediately understood that this violence that is happening over there would not stay over there. When violence occurs in the world, we are intimately connected to it from wherever we are. Like many equal rights leaders in the past have argued, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, including in the Beehive State. We stand with our minority communities in Utah as Islamophobia and anti-Semitism rises simultaneously. Islamophobia has long threatened our community from scapegoating and interpersonal violence to hate speech and implicit bias. It not only threatens our livelihood and quality of life, but actively complicates our relationship with our faith, our community, and a deep part of our identity. Regardless of one's race, gender, or politics, Islamophobia is never off the table for any Muslim in America. These forms of hate manifestations themselves at work in public, and most crucially in schools, forcing our children to be made inferior to their counterparts. This hatred did not start to rear its ugly head just last week. This hatred did not start and has persisted despite attitudinal shifts towards Muslims. If we stay in denial of the problems that have allowed this hate to rise, then nothing is there to stop this hate from continuing, growing, and evolving and threatening our community and other minority communities. Islamophobia and anti-Semitism are two sides of the exact same coin. The culmination of these rising forms of hatred in our local community led us to the murder of this 6-year-old Palestinian boy in the suburb of Chicago named Wadia. Let me be clear. Our community in Utah is not immune to this violence. There's no reason why we are different and why this cannot happen to us. These last few weeks alone have seen a bomb threat against our synagogue, the University of Utah's Muslim Student Association being hacked and flooded with hateful messages, and multiple accounts of Muslim women harassed and verbally attacked in multiple settings from a mall and even in their own neighborhoods. I even experienced verbal harassment myself outside my home the week I was headed out to record the beautiful PSA that you will see shortly. It is important to remember that our words make worlds, and as they permeate and negotiate our realities and the realities that others live in, and it is all more the reason to be wary and stand against the hate in our local communities. Good intentions simply are not enough. When we understand that our oppression is connected, we must move beyond the borders of our own communities and towards a universalist and transformative strategy. We are asking for our political leadership in the state of Utah, as they always have, to make an active effort to include and uplift the voices in our community that have historically found themselves on the margins of politics and representation. Only this can open pathways for our leaders to not only understand and empathize with the hate speech and specific forms of violence we are facing on a daily basis, but understand how to best deal with rising forms of hate. I am also asking for our own community, the Muslim community, to report hate speech and violence they might experience or may have experienced. Our local law enforcement, and I stand by that statement, is with us. They are with us every step of the way. By reporting, it allows for the broader data collection and a more clear picture of what our communities are facing, as well as opening up the door for more effective and holistic protection of our communities in the most dire of times. I call on each one of us to do the best that we can and be the one Utah that we are so proud of. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're now going to see the PSA.
In Salt Lake City, we are taking a stand against hate
and standing for inclusion,
for acceptance,
civility, and unity.
We take a stand against bias,
bigotry, prejudice,
violence, intimidation,
and hate of any kind.
We are speaking up in support of reporting acts of hatred
And are committed
to supporting survivors
and providing resources for enforcement.
in all of our Salt Lake communities.
We are standing up for your future.
In the future of our children.
so that no one
is the victim of hate.
And everyone's safe?
welcomed and free to be who they are.
Because we are all Salt Lakers.
Because we are all Salt Lakers.
And taking a stand is what we do.
And now to speak on our city's commitment to speaking up and standing up against hate, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Erin Mendenhall.
Thank you, Liz. And before I begin, I just want to clarify that our friend Efren Corrado is, I would love him to work for my office, but he actually works for Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson's office. And I also want to recognize our friend Nubia Pena, who is here, I'm sure, on behalf of our Governor Spencer Cox. You have all levels of government here, and it's a beautiful thing. As my hero said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. This is a coalition standing against hate, but it is very much a coalition of love. And I feel an appreciation for the beautiful spectrum of faces and representation that are here. I don't think I've ever been on a stage with such a dynamic and cross-sectional group from our community. All of you, whom I can call my friend, thank you for coming together for this purpose. Their representation of the beautiful faces and voices, cultures and beliefs that call Salt Lake City home. And we celebrate that tapestry here in Salt Lake City. Cultivating inclusive, compassionate, and understanding environments in every corner, in every department, in every neighborhood in this city is important, and it is our daily work. It requires intentional effort from all of us. We're here today to announce a vital part of this intentional work to assure that safety and security are championed for every Salt Laker and every visitor to our city. Let me be clear that hate has no place here. It has no place anywhere.
Amen.
These are some of the most abhorrent forms of violence against individuals and communities, including widespread harm and fear, not only directed at the victim, but at the entire community they are connected to. So far this year, the Utah Department of Public Safety has reported, these are reported, more hate crimes directed at our LGBTQ plus community than the previous 4 years combined. Reported hate crimes targeting LGBTQ people have hit a 5-year high this year. Most of the crimes reported coincided with Pride Month. Most of the crimes reported are property crimes or vandalism, followed by assault, larceny, and intimidation. And unfortunately, as Salt Lakers, we're all too familiar with these incidents, including the accounts of theft and destruction of pride flags in our city. This is heartbreaking and entirely unacceptable. We also know that anti-Semitic incidents are increasing across the United States and worldwide. The Anti-Defamation League announced earlier this year that incidents were higher in 2022 than in any other year since they began keeping records in 1979. Utah's Jewish community and congregations have endured threats upon threats and incidents of hate. It's important that we remain vigilant as a city, as a community, as individuals, and that we speak out against hate, that we condemn, and then that we investigate anti-Semitism wherever it may fester. Hate crimes are often unreported and underreported for a variety of reasons and barriers, including the lack of language access services, the fear of retaliation, and a lack of awareness about where and how to safely report. When hate crimes go underreported or unreported, our ability to effectively support the victim and the community is weakened, and law enforcement's understanding of the crime becomes more limited, constraining their ambition to prevent those crimes from happening in the first place. As a city, we have an obligation. We have an obligation to dismantle all barriers and create safe and secure environments that prioritize a victim's ability to access services and come forward to report these heinous crimes. We are committed. You see it here today, and you'll hear it in all of our voices. We're committed to the ongoing work ahead of us to build trust with all of our communities and create effective avenues for the intervention and the prevention of hate crimes and hate incidents. We also understand that we are stronger together. We are actively identifying and strengthening our community partnerships to ensure that our resources and our responses to hate crimes are comprehensive and are culturally appropriate. Understanding of different identities, cultures, and histories of systemic violence and injustice are key to that. I'm proud to be a part of the Community Partners Against Hate Coalition, and this PSA that we've just released today elevates these important messages of hope, love, and care for one another. These are values I know that Salt Lake City and our Salt Lake residents hold so dear. Thank you again for being here and for your help in spreading the word. And now I'll quickly read a proclamation that I've signed today. Whereas the United States is experiencing the highest levels of violent hate crimes on record, according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's latest hate crime report, Anti-Defamation League, and Southern Poverty Law Center, that intimidate entire communities and tear at the founding ideals of our nation. And whereas this month of October is designated as Hate Crimes Awareness Month to amplify the national conversation on how to prevent hate and foster inclusive democracy where each of us feels safe and welcome in our communities. And whereas hate-based crimes in our own city that include bomb threats, vandalism, and physical violence continue to impact our residents and communities, especially communities of color, LGBTQIA+ communities, and religious minority communities. And whereas on this day, October 20th, 2023, the Community Partners Against Hate formally announced the Salt Lake Speak Up and Stand Up Against Hate campaign to mobilize our entire city to be upstanders and allies against hate. I, as mayor, call on our city's religious, educational, and business institutions as well as all levels and branches of government and all Salt Lake City residents to join this movement and to speak up, stand up, and to report all hate incidents and crimes. By working together as partners against hate, we can ensure that our city is a place where all people feel valued, safe, and accepted, and intolerance and bigotry do not have a home. And whereas our community's success depends on making sure that threats and acts of violence based on hate are not encouraged, tolerated, or ignored, let us come together to create a city that stands as a beacon of civility and acceptance. Now, therefore, I, Erin Mendenhall, Mayor of Salt Lake City, do hereby proclaim October 20th, 2023 as Speak Up and Stand Up Against Hate Day in Salt Lake City, and may this be the first in the campaign to eradicate hate in our city, state, and union for many years to come. Thank you.
Powerful words, Mayor. Great proclamation. Good morning. Before I begin, I want to take a moment and stand with and support the survivors of hate crimes who have been targeted and attacked in our community, including a group of young adults last summer during Pride. This group was targeted because of their sexual orientation. This type of hate has no place in our community. We are in challenging times. There is conflict abroad and here in the United States. But as Salt Lakers, we reject hate. Not only do we recognize our differences, we welcome them. Hate crimes have far-reaching consequences. They extend beyond individual victims. That is why our police department is 100% committed to investigating and addressing hate crimes. We will do everything we can to support survivors and hold offenders accountable. We work to strengthen our laws and our response to hate crimes every day. The wounds of hate crime go much deeper than physical harm. They tear at the very fabric of our diverse communities. We cannot allow fear, mistrust, or hatred to divide us. In the reality we face today, we must do everything we can to support and protect our communities. It is our duty as police officers to ensure that our communities remain safe, inclusive, and welcoming to all. I am proud of the victim services that the Salt Lake City Police Department has to offer. Even if someone chooses not to file a report, and that's for whatever reason, there are resources and support available. Our police officers are here to listen, and they care deeply about you. They are dedicated to investigating hate crimes and ensuring that those responsible are held accountable. Those who commit these violent acts of hate stand alone in their beliefs. That is why I urge everyone to report potential hate crimes. We need to know about potential hate crimes so that we can investigate, prevent further harm, and most importantly, provide the support that survivors need. Thank you, Mayor Mendenhall, District Attorney Sim Gill, Ms. Luna Benari, everybody on this stage. Thank you so much. And to the United Jewish Federation, well done. Together, we are working hard to create a safer and more inclusive city, county, and state for all of us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I begin, I just want to say again to the coalition of our partners who are here, many who are not here as partners against hate It is a wide, diverse community representing many, many different communities, faith communities, community members, and it is truly an honor to be part of this coalition. Dr. Jacobson, thank you. Luna, thank you. My sister, thank you. And Mayor Mendenhall, thank you. Chief, thank you. And as the chief mentioned, one of the things I just want to say is report, respond, investigate, and prosecute. That is what we're committed to. And we cannot do this unless you are willing to get engaged. And you know, what I want to say is that as all of us come together as partners against hate, we are responding to, from diverse perspectives, united together, we rise up against hate and hate crime that target individuals. There are 3 crimes of every hate crime. There is the person who is targeted and chosen and selected and harmed. There is that trauma and harm that is directed at that person. That's the first victim. The second victim is the community or group that person belongs to. And there's a chill that is sent through that community. And that's the second victimization that occurs. And the third victimization is really all of us as a community where this happens. In an ever-changing world where our differences have become an invitation to isolate, marginalize, and alienate others, the virus of hate finds fertile ground that targets individuals, frightens communities, and violates our very best ideals as a society. Hate crimes have been on steady rise across this country and this state. Just the most recent documentation, as Dr. Jacobson mentioned, there's 11,288 that have been reported by the FBI, which captures a fraction of what is estimated to be about 200,000 hate crimes that are there. Race, politics, xenophobia, religion, and animus are used by people to fuel hate. These manifestations have attacked the dignity of people, violated their sense of safety, and engaged in acts of violence, fear, and intimidation. We are here together, individually and collectively, to say, no more. Not in our city, not in our county, not in our state. So let me be clear, as there are people who use different strategies to perpetuate hate. Any violence uttered in the name of God are the errors of mankind, not of God, and that is hate, and it will not be tolerated. Yes. Any rationalization of oppression is an error of politics and the expression of power, not principles, and it will not be tolerated. Any barbarity inflicted upon innocent individuals is an error and mistakes of those individuals, not of the people, and we will not tolerate it. There is enough hate and violence and suffering in this world that it does not need the complicity of our silence to support it. Amen. Hate is hate. Yes. Violence is violence. Yes. The ability to inflict purposeful pain, to instill gratuitous fear, to indiscriminately harm the dignity and humiliate the dignity of another person are too often the skillful errors of us humans rather than anything divine or noble in us. There is no rationalizing of hate and targeted violence, none whatsoever. Hate is learned. Hate is nurtured. Hate is rationalized. Hate is politicized. Hate is weaponized. And hate is tolerated and needs our complicit support by our silence and our unwillingness to act. Well, enough is enough. No more. We will not be silent to it anymore. Hate, bigotry, homophobia, racist tropes, sexist agenda, ethnic exclusions, and every other expression of shame, humiliation, and discrimination as targeted violence will find no support and, more crucially, no comfort or silence in our community any longer. If you attack our Jewish, Muslim, LDS, Hindu, or Sikh brothers and sisters, we will no longer be silent to it. If you attack our LGBTQ, immigrant communities, people of color, different abilities, genders as targeted hate, you will find no comfort. Amen. We, not the few, that would make you think like we are, we, not the few, we the many, we the band of diverse people who are gathered here, we the overwhelming majority, the community of many, will and do reject this hate. Yes. So as I said, report every incident to law enforcement and respond to every conversation which humiliates another person in front of your presence. Investigate every allegation so no one can find comfort in their discriminatory and unacceptable behavior. And I commit to you that we will prosecute every crime that we can and hold those individuals accountable, because we will no longer tolerate this in our community any longer. Amen. We are a nation, a people that believes in the ideals of justice, equality, fairness, and truth. This is who we are. And we refuse to let anybody else hijack those ideals for their own personal purposes at the harm or injury to anyone in our community. This is the promise of America, and this is the commitment of our collective partnership. Hate has no place here. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of our speakers and also some of the partners who even arrived too late to be on stage who are with us today. You can imagine the support that members of a minority community feel when they meet with and are surrounded by members of their own and other minorities. And I hope you appreciate the pride that majorities should feel when they live in a city where minorities gain the support of all of the leaders and leadership that you saw before you today. I think in the video you got a glimpse of the breadth of our partnership. It's growing, and we welcome others who want to join us with that. The task is long. Some say impossible. Some would give up. But we're reminded that we're not free to desist from that task. The work must go on. We're working, strengthened by this alliance with these leaders, to even work at the state level so that perhaps in a year we can say at the end of another advertisement, because we are Utahns, there is no place in our state for hate. Amen. Think of those of us at a conference where other representatives were coming from Orlando, Buffalo, El Paso, and Pittsburgh, sharing the tragedies that, as Sim said so well, affected not just individuals, not just communities, but entire cities, who in a sense are struggling almost with shame and embarrassment, but a few are working to correct what happened and make it impossible. I say to you here that Salt Lake was recognized in that community as the name of a city that is trying not to be associated in everyone's mind with a heinous crime. Thank you so much for coming today. As I mentioned, our panelists or speakers and our partners will stay a bit to answer your questions, and we hope you'll have many. You are the conduit that extends this kind of presentation to our community, and they, of course, are the most important sets of ears and eyes to see it. So thank you, members of the press and media, for coming.